Well, welcome everybody. I'm Rob Nielsen, CEO of All American Leadership, and today we are going to spend a little bit of time with Dr. Taylor Payton, faculty member here at All American Leadership, and we're going to find a little bit about what makes Taylor tick. We're going to find out a little bit about where she's from, who she is, and have a better understanding of what she believes and what's important to her. So welcome. And Taylor, welcome to you.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
Absolutely. So as we get started, let's start with like going back in the Wayback Time Machine and tell us a little bit about your journey and how you happen to be Dr. Taylor Payton with us today.
Sure. Yeah, so the doctor came from the University of San Diego, where I studied leadership for my PhD. And that was around the time when I was going through the beginning of a personal transformation that informed my leadership journey later. I was at the time a very logical, I'm still logical, but I was a very data-driven, research first. If you can't measure it, it doesn't exist kind of human. And so people who know me from that time, they can attest to that. And so I was very into research, wanting to do my dissertation on a topic, was drawn to the topic of authenticity in leaders for my dissertation. I thought it was fascinating and really important for leaders to be clear about their values, be in touch with their emotions, and be able to express that to their people skillfully and powerfully. And what I didn't realize at the time was I was drawn to that topic because authenticity was what I personally needed most. And I was so ingrained in this logical, research-based mindset that I was out of touch with the more emotional side of life. And so that's part of why I was drawn to leadership development because it involves your entire person, your entire human in order to lead people well. But I didn't realize I was missing that emotional piece. And
Wow.
so I went on this 7-year journey from then forward of my own pretty intense development. I moved to Boston as part of it. I got a professor job at Boston University teaching leadership and workplace psychology. And I'm from Los Angeles originally, so always wanted to move to the East Coast just to live out there and see what it was like. I was always drawn to the East Coast, had the opportunity to do it. So I went for it. During that period, I went through a nomadic period as well. I decided to put everything I owned in storage and become more geographically flexible. That was also facilitated partially by COVID and that period. And yeah, I just went on this exploration journey and went through a ton of transformation and identity shifting. And I came out of it much better able to be in touch with who I was, what I truly cared about, what I felt, express it to others. I found my voice. And so from that journey, I take really seriously the power of leading both with your head and with your heart when it comes to interacting with people and also just how you live your life because I went through it myself. So today I'm a blend of I'm a research nerd, I'm a data dork, and I'm so much into human connection. I value it so much. And I see that leaders need both for effective leadership.
Wow. So thank you for that. So you mentioned a transformation and you mentioned that you were lacking an awareness around this deficiency.
Mhm.
Um, was there a moment, was there an event that suddenly cued you to say, wow, I might be missing something here?
Such a good question. It was a series of many events. When I flash back, I remember sitting in circles of friends who were also in my same leadership program. They were very emotionally in touch. I remember thinking to myself, why are we wasting time on this? Where's the evidence? Where's the theory? So that dissonance, that I was living through was a signal It was a signal that something might be missing. But at first I denied it, and I didn't really know it existed. I was actually lacking the capacity to feel my emotions for a very long time, at least at a certain level. I could feel some of them, but I don't know. I would look at my friends who were so good at it, and they would live with their heart on their sleeve, and I would just be mystified by them. And so living in community with people who are very in touch was a big piece for me because they modeled a different way of being that
Mhm.
I wasn't really exposed to in my earlier life.
What was there a first step? So many of our participants come from that perspective of,
Mm.
I'm just not a touchy-feely person.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
idea of empathy and emotional connection is uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Was there a first step that you took that helped you pursue that path?
Mhm. It was one of deep healing, to be honest, but that was for me. Not everyone comes at it from a need for healing as why they're not in touch. I think I had been working on projects and working with teams where I was capping out at what I could do,
Mhm.
and not, everything works for you up to a point, and then until you reach that moment when it doesn't. And that's the point I hit where if I was too task focused, too strategy focused, too much about the pieces of the puzzle and thinking of people as objects was my natural tendency at the time. It only went so far with us being effective. And yeah, so I think that was it. I started failing in areas that I wasn't expecting to fail in. And then I had to think, wait a minute, what am I missing? It's not that I had no empathy, and no emotions, but to value those emotions and to value the human connection piece, that was the growth area. The
Yeah.
people for the sake of people.
I,
Yeah.
I love this. I love this direction that we're going here. So taking taking that perspective that you had early on, where you were more, sounds like you were more black and white, more objective,
Yes.
uh,
Hmm.
and coupling that with the fact you were a competitive athlete growing,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
like a D1 volleyball player
Hmm.
at a very high level at a very
Hmm.
successful school. How did that impact your
Mm.
relationships and your ability to lead on a team?
Yeah. So that team I was a part of, that was Long Beach State under the coach Brian Gimolero. And at the time of my development, that team was a perfect fit for me because it was a very high accountability culture, very much about commitment, committing to the team. And my logical way of being fit perfectly, it was almost like a military feel, tight rules. We're doing this in service of the team. But what I learned a lot from that team was how to be in service of something bigger than you and how to be in alignment with the group mission above and beyond your own individual priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And the discipline and the commitment that's required for that. It's a lens of self-sacrifice, but self-sacrifice for a higher good, you know. I will help more than I might think I need to because that's just what we need as a group to be successful. And so from that experience, it was such an amazing program, and he was such a strong coach. I learned the intricacies of teamwork. I learned by watching him interact with different players how he would learn or how he would teach them and coach them, essentially. He would take each player and have an individualized approach for each one. Like for me, when I would do better as a player when he would explain things to me, like the process behind it, and then I could connect with the how. But for every player, he didn't do that. For other players, he would just be very direct and give the high level information, and that was it. So I saw him slow down and change his coaching style according to the player and what they needed. That really impacted my leadership as well to say, all right, what does your team need? What do your people need? That's an important lens for leadership. And so is what are we trying to accomplish as a team? How is that bigger than me?
I love that individual approach that your coach took, recognizing that you needed the data and the backstory. So taking that entire journey and bringing it to the present, uh, what would you say your personal purpose and ethos are? What is your purpose, and what are those values that guide you, that help you determine how you're going to act, how you're going to interact with others, and how you make decisions on a daily basis?
Yeah. I would say that everything I do, I aim to pour love and intention into the world. And I do that by enabling people to grow into their potential and also by taking my own growth very seriously. I value it a lot because I believe that organizations and communities thrive when we as individuals thrive. And when I think about leadership and how teams function, I don't like to think about leadership as just a skill set. I prefer to think of leadership as a process, an interactive exchange between people that is rooted in its best form in the leader's identity and their character and their intention and their care and their accountability and their vision. And so I love to think of some of the strongest leaders as those who are just themselves in their character, in their authenticity. They are a certain kind of person when they're leading. They're the same kind of person in their personal life, and they are who they are when no one is watching, you know? And so I like to prioritize these days in my values. I prioritize connection, human connection, over the transactional side of life. You know, if I have to choose one or the other, I'm usually going to honor the relationship. And I also believe that I try in my life to balance the task, execution, strategic side of life with the care, compassion, empathy. I try to balance that or keep them both in mind as I move throughout the day. And yeah, I believe that I would like to be the kind of leader who shows up with authenticity and courage. And I take that same set of values and aim to live it in my personal life as well. Because I think of all of us on earth as helping each other along. And so the quote, a rising tide lifts all boats, you know.
Right.
I really believe that if we each work on ourselves and we work on making our teams and our groups the best we can to be the best expression of themselves, then that will naturally lift up our families, our communities, and our society.
Ah, that's beautiful. So is there a, or are there a couple of like rallying cries, mantras, things that are constantly rattling in your head as you go through life, and you're just being?
Mm. Depends on the situation. The one I'm working on lately maybe sounds like, how do you love them and you at the same time to find that balance? To
Hmm.
remember myself in the process, to try to be my own best team player and live a life that I view as having integrity so I can bring that integrity forward to others.
Love that. Thank you. So, as I said at the very beginning, you are one of our faculty members. Would you be willing to share with us what it was about All American Leadership that, when we tapped you on the shoulder, made you intrigued or made you interested?
Sure. So first thing is, as I said, I value intentionality very much in my life. And when I met AAL's team, All American Leadership's team, they struck me as very intentional people, very sincere, and leadership who wants to walk the talk. And they model the way themselves. And so that drew me in immediately. I looked at their values, the values of their company. They care also about character. They care a lot about trust. And I've done a ton of work on trust. I feel it's one of the critical components for any high performing team. They really value that as one of their top values. They care so much about learning, and that resonated with me as well. I'm a continuous learner. I like to advocate for learning. I'm fundamentally an educator and a guide for people in teams and who are leading their own teams. And they're also really good storytellers. So you'll if you haven't met them yet, you'll see they have a lot of really great stories to illustrate what they value and care about. And so the team naturally drew me in. But their work, they work with leaders who are already really good at what they do. But the mission of All American Leadership is to help those leaders reach their next horizon.
Oh, I
And
love.
so when I look at how they work with those leaders, the level of care they have it's authentic. It feels authentic to me. And I'm sure the people they work with feel it too. They challenge the people who are learning from them and with them, but they also care very deeply. And I just love that is such a sweet spot for leadership when you can combine care with challenge. And I was first introduced to All American Leadership through my very dear colleague, Dr. Pete Scabera, who I met through the University of San Diego. We were both doing our PhDs together in leadership. And so that's how I first heard of the group. But really, it was the nature of the team, the leaders of All American Leadership, what they stand for, and also their curriculum blends both theory and rigor with sound practice. So it's not just you're not just showing up and learning stories. Your learning is underpinned by theory and evidence-based approaches. And so that really speaks a lot to me because I bring the psychology side and the evidence-based training in. And so, yeah, they were looking for more PhDs to join their team, and they have a lot of people with military experience and really deep, rich, lived leadership experience. And so they were looking for people with more of an academic bent to complement their team, and that's how I joined.
Well, and you absolutely do all of that. So thank you. So as we wrap up here, tell us something about Dr. Taylor Payton that we don't know.
I can juggle a volleyball on my back.
A volleyball or three volleyballs?
Only one.
Oh,
Only one. It's a very important note.
wow, that's an interesting visual. I'm not sure that
Mhm.
I even know what that would look like.
I'll show you one of these days.
There we
It'd
go.
have
I
to be in
look forward
person,
to it.
though. It'd be really hard to do on Zoom.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Mhm.
Well, Taylor, thank you for giving us this little glimpse into who you are and how you've come to be the leader and the person that you are today. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.